I am at the point in my hand illustration where I have used my reference photo and a grid to very carefully draw a contour line drawing of my hand. And I feel like it is in a good spot where I will have room for some labels. We had talked about that as we started, that if it looked like it was going to be too big, that the time to start over was in the very beginning. So I did make my photo a little smaller. You can see here to start with, my thumb ended up being like this wide, and my new thumb is like half that small. So I adjusted the size of my photo before drawing. This is essentially a rough draft of what your final illustration will be. We're going to do this in ink, but right now it is in pencil, and we'll talk about shading. But this is the basis for the other two portions of the drawing, right? So we have right now the contour line drawing of the hand, and I'm finished. And my job now is going to be to add the bones of the hand. In Google Classroom, there are reference photos of both a right and left hand in bones. If you are struggling with your pose, you can contact me and I will use my actual bone hand and take a photo for you. So if I were to take and pose this hand, and you'll see that this is a right hand and my photo here is a left hand. So we can flip them. But you can see I can pose the bones in this same pose and then begin to draw those bones. I want the bones on their own separate layer. And like I said, there are reference photos. If you're struggling to see what your pose would look like, just please reach out, and I am happy to, like I said, pose my hand, my bony hand, in your pose for you. I'm going to be making now just an image of the bones, and I need a piece of the tracing paper. So I'm going to go to the gray folder that came in the kit, and there are two types of transparent paper. One I clipped together, and you can see it's like smoother, a little more plasticky, and the other kind is a little lighter and a little more tissue papery. Our final illustration will use this. This is the final paper. It's nicer paper, a little more clear. But for this phase, I'm going to use a sheet of the more kind of yellow, wrinkly, tissue papery kind of paper. So I'm going to take one of these sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it over the top of my hand contour line drawing. And I'm going to use my pencil now. And I have my bone reference nearby so I can see it. I've got it pulled up on my Chromebook screen. And what I'm going to do is simply draw the bones in the places. One thing I want to make sure to think about, right? If I put this bone hand on top of my hand, you'll notice a couple of things. Bones don't bend. It's the places between the bones that bend. So this top segment of my thumb is this bone. This section of my thumb is this next bone. And this final section of my thumb is down inside the pad of my hand. You'll also see that the carpal bones, that's what this small group of 8 bones is called, sits here at the base of my palm, and then they move into my wrist or my in my arm bones. Okay, so my palm includes these it looks like an extension of the fingers. Looking at just the bone hand, it looks like my finger goes all the way down to here. And really this stops, and this is my knuckle. It's also important for you to recognize that if I draw the bones from a palm up position, they look different than from a palm down position. So make sure you're using the correct reference photo as you make your illustration. But so what that means for me is as I draw, I am looking at where these lines are, because that means that my the bone in here stops where this crease is. That's where the bendy place is. And then the next bone would start. So I want to make sure that as I'm making my drawing of the bones, that I'm thinking about that there is a little space here for the joint between my finger bones. And I'm going to make sure that my bones stay straight as I'm drawing them. So you can see I'm drawing each individual section of my bone one at a time. Just making sure to line them up with where they would be in my hand. This guy's gonna come down. Not really sure how far yet. Wait a minute. And then I'm gonna draw the next one. And I'm just gonna continue this until my illustration of my bone hand here is complete. So I can switch to a finished version of this particular one, and you can see all of the bones are in the hand. I have made sure to kind of carefully line these up, the carpals, the individual bones, the wrist bone, so it's like an x-ray version of my hand drawing. So that is step 2. After this, we will add muscles and tendons.